Hi, my name is Michaela Spryer and I'm a senior accounting major at Illinois State University. One of our club's major initiatives is to expand students' learning outside of the classroom, and I developed a book club a year and a half ago to achieve this goal. This past summer, our national president asked me to expand this to the national level. In the book club's first session, we will be reading How Remarkable Women Lead by Joanna, Barsh, and Susie Cranston. Joanna and Susie explore 5 essential leadership traits in this book for every successful woman. In these 5 webinars, we will explore each of these traits and have a great group discussion with other students here at Illinois State University. Today we will be discussing framing. While discussing framing, Joanna explained that a woman must view situations clearly, avoiding downward spirals in order to move ahead, adapt, and implement solutions. This section of the book will teach you how to frame situations more positively and how to avoid the dangers of ruminating. One of the first steps to having a positive frame is determining where you fall on the optimist-pessimist scale. What are the benefits of being an optimist, and what are some strategies to develop more optimistic tendencies?
I can start off on this one. I think that some of the benefits of being an optimist are that your future's never really promised. And so how you choose to view where you're heading, whether that's negative or positive, I think in a way helps you set your frame of mind to achieve what it is you're going for. So those that view things more optimistically tend to have a brighter future because they see it as brighter. And on the other end, pessimists tend to look for the worst in their everyday situation, but also in the future. And so you're not going to strive towards achieving something more or something more positive for yourself. And so I think a lot of it is you get what you view from it. And so just acknowledging when you're being pessimistic, I think really helps you to reframe what your mind is thinking and rewire you to think, well, how can I think of this in a more positive light?
I can add to that. I think in addition to it really impacting yourself, I think it impacts others. By being an optimist, I think the people around you really do catch on to that, especially if you're in a leadership position, and it can really kind of have a ripple effect on those around you, and it might energize them in their own work.
Absolutely. I can add to that as well. During one of my internships, we were on an audit team together and all in the basement with no windows. And it was pretty grueling, but we all kind of made light of it and we tried to make the best of the situation. But I can't imagine if we had somebody who was just really upset and really couldn't snap out of it, it would bring down the team. And it doesn't matter what position that person is on the team. If you have somebody who's just weighing everybody down, it really contributes to the lack of work and just the overall attitude of the team.
Thanks. I was going to say, I think too that part of that is that it could always be worse. So whether it is in the basement working on an audit or not getting your dream job, your dream internship, I think one way to look at it is it could be a learning experience, or that for some reason it happened that something better is going to come. So it's just always having a positive outlook on even if it is a bad situation.
So due to genetics, women, especially pessimistic women, have a tendency to spiral down and ruminate. How can this spiraling behavior damage a person's career? And what are some ways to pull yourself out of ruminating?
Sometimes I think there could be nothing worse than being thought of as an emotional woman. And I think that sometimes that ruminating and getting kind of emotions into feedback and negative news in some cases can kind of exacerbate that. And so one way that I found it's helpful in terms of not ruminating and spiraling is just to put distance between whatever situation or event has triggered you, or any kind of feedback that you didn't necessarily at the time view as constructive. That giving yourself a little bit of space, revisiting that feedback with a level head after a good night of sleep, you can come back and really learn from it.
To build on that, I do agree that time heals a lot. So sometimes, it is hard to hear those things, and especially when you're new to the work world and new to having feedback, you have to learn how to process that. So accepting that the way that you're feeling is normal and legitimate, I think is also part of it. And then knowing that you'll want to go back and revisit that because that's how you're going to improve is a very important aspect as well.
So being an optimist can only take an individual so far. It's also important for women to have realistic expectations of themselves and seek constant feedback to improve themselves. What is an example where you sought out feedback and learned something important about yourself or your work? And what did you do with the feedback that you received?
Well, I would say in one of my experiences with work, I was actually the only intern to ask for feedback. And that really put me ahead, I guess, of my instructors' perceptions of my work. And I think that also gave me a stepping ground as to where to go from here, how I can get better. And that was really important with my experience and how I got better.
I know in the past, I actually am a non-traditional student, so I worked as a bookkeeper before coming here. And to kind of build on what Emily was saying, not only is that going to make you better, but also it's going to make the dynamic better. So in a position where you're in a real workplace scenario where you don't have a time frame where after so many months this ends, you're going to have to continue to work with a lot of those people. So asking for feedback, looking for that feedback, and then using that to build a team and work with other people, I think is very important in the work world.
So you should consistently seek out feedback as things are constantly changing in the life and work. This brings me to the final important trait to develop to ensure that you have positive framing. In a world that is constantly changing, it's extremely important to be adaptable and to maintain a positive mindset. Do you consider yourself fixed or flexible in the moment? And how can a person who is more fixed in the moment become more flexible?
I would consider myself to be a pretty flexible person. I wasn't necessarily like that earlier in my college career. It's just something, it's a life skill to be able to adapt to change and adapt to adversity. And that's something that I've been able to build upon during my time at Illinois State University and other jobs that I've had and internships. But definitely being a flexible person is something that I'm still working to improve upon, but I think it's very important.
I would consider myself a fairly fixed person. I don't really plan out my day, so I think in order to fix that, it would help to write things down, make a schedule, so you can have a block of time for something, and if like a different problem comes up, I would know a time to be able to work on that rather than not know what I'm doing that day at all.
So how can women maintain a positive attitude if faced with another person's unconscious bias against them?
I think just reminding yourself that you know yourself better than they know you, and you know your skill set and you know what you're capable of, and just keeping that in mind.
Not that it's exactly what, as a woman, you should do to look at other people's bias, but I think in general, all of us as a society need to recognize that there are a lot of biases against women in the workplace, at home. There's certain boxes that our society has fit women into, and so I think it is up to a lot of times even other women to give someone else the floor sometimes and build up someone else in the workspace to legitimize what it is that they're saying and give them a little bit more credit in the eyes of a lot of the other peers. So recognizing a lot of the talents and a lot of what women bring to the workplace will help do that on a little bit larger scale instead of just a situation by situation event. So I think that is pretty important in today's work world.
I think also to add to that is reflecting on the unconscious bias that truly it's your core that bothers you the most necessarily, because I think you can almost get, again, when we were talking about the spiraling and the going out of control and whatnot, if you just focus on all these negative unconscious biases, they're all around us. We all have them, regardless of what gender you are. I think focusing on things that you can improve in yourself, as well as recognizing that there are just things that you necessarily can't always prevent, but you can recognize and you can try to understand, and not hold those grudges and let that negatively impact your work and your personality and outlook in your career and life.
Thank you all for joining us for this discussion on framing. Hopefully this has added to your knowledge on the topic as one of the 5 aspects of centered leadership. We all hope that you'll be able to join us for our next discussion on connecting. Thank you.